Hello, everybody. Hello. What a lovely audience we have. Now, to save confusion today, we are holding microphones, but you're not going to hear any amplification from the microphone because we're recording a podcast. So just don't think I don't know that you can't hear me. Do you know what I mean? I feel like a child. Wait there. I just had a tato, and no, would you believe it? I went fancy Worcester sauce. Do you know? Look, sure, you're only in London once. You give it a go. And the crisp went to the back of the tooth, and it stuck there for a while. I thought it was gone. Then, it reared its head. There's a fair few teeth. Wait there, I'm going to wash my mouth out with a bit of coke. Do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of being in a pub when I'm 8 years old. Yeah. And the crisps are sticking to my teeth, and I'm like, I better wash it down with a soft drink, do you know? So, thank you so much for coming to watch the amazing strike. I'll be hosting a Q&A. Just as well as that, at the end, we're going to let the audience ask some questions as well. So Rove and Mike will come to you. You'll be on the Guilty Feminist podcast because it's going to go out on the Guilty Feminist podcast, which is, so if you want to think of a question you can ask, save it, I'll come to you, and it's just going to be a nice, intimate chat with some amazing people. Not myself included now, because that sounded a bit un-Irish, but I'm allowed to say other people are amazing. So let's do it. Let's get this party started. And also, because it's a podcast, I am going to ask Tracy Ryan, yourself. Do you know what? I didn't know it was you, but I knew it was you. You have she's an author. You wrote the play, didn't you? Yeah. You have the top of a playwright, I have to say. You're looking. Do you know? You're looking great. But I just want you to know. I just don't want you to be going, she rehashed this over again. I am for the benefit of the listener. This is giving you, look, I'm opening up the bonnet and I'm really showing you the innards here, of how it's working. So let's pretend I didn't reassure you there before, and we're just going to lash in. Okay. Feminists, and welcome to this very special episode coming to you from the Southwark Playhouse in London. I've only just learned how to pronounce Southwark as well. Is that how you say it? Or I kept going South. I've been saying Southwark. So Southwark, yeah? Oh my gosh, because I was okay. Here we go again. But you know what? Keep it in. I deserve to have the listeners know that I didn't know how to say Southwark. Hello, Guilty Feminists, and welcome to a very special episode coming to you from Southwark Playhouse in London. Thank you. I'm Alison, Spittle, and I've just watched the incredible new play, Strike, which tells the story of shop assistants who refuse to handle South African goods in protest of the country's apartheid policies. With me to discuss the play is the author Tracy Ryan and three of the strikers that inspired the play, Mary Manning, Karen Gearon, and Liz Deasy. Right, come on up, ladies. Beautiful. So, Tracy, I'm going to go to you first. For the benefit of the listeners at home, could you give a quick synopsis of the play that we've seen today? Do you know what? Why do I say quick? Do whatever you like. You take your time.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So it begins, lights up. I suppose it's the story of the strike and the story of these incredible group of young people who refused to handle South African goods back in 1984. And it starts off with, and I think you've said it yourselves, you kind of didn't really know what was going on and what was happening in South Africa, but decided to kind of piss off the bosses. And so went out on strike, and then through the process got to know what was going on through Nimrod Sajaki and other activists that visited the line. And so I suppose the play is the story of a strike action and we take it from the beginning right to the end. And for this, it was such a long journey for you all. So that's pretty much the story that we have. And we get to know the strikers. We get to know Nimrod Sajaki, who was amazingly in exile in Dublin down the road, and also Brendan Archibald, who was a union organiser at the time. So it's their kind of connection and their journey. But I think it's really about this group of young people who refused to back down and just kept going against such big odds, really. And it's an inspirational story of solidarity with people thousands of miles away, not for your own gain, but for something else. So that's the story, I think. In a nutshell, there you go.
And like myself, I went to school in Ireland, and in secondary school, you know, the strike is mentioned in the history books. Mostly, like, it is a kind of thing of, it teaches you a little bit about apartheid in South Africa, and it says, fun fact, one of the first countries to do a boycott on South African goods was Ireland, and it was because of these people. But I didn't know any more detail than that. So I'd love to know, I'm going to start with Karen. Can I talk about the start of your relationship with unions and stuff? Like, how old were you when you first joined a union? Actually, I'm interested in that, yeah.
Okay, I was 18 when I joined the union. Well, when I joined Dunn's, I joined the union. I wasn't obviously the youngest, but after a while we became involved with the union, and I became the shop steward with IDATU.
And what was your responsibilities as a shop steward with
Well, it was
IDATU?
kind of a crap job. Nobody else wanted it.
Really?
Yeah. Because, I mean, the working conditions in Dunn's were really, really poor. The money might have been better than other shops, but the actual conditions were very poor. We were mainly women workers and young women workers. Yeah. You could only go to the toilet twice a day, and they were timed for 8 minutes. Yeah, and where we worked in the basement, and
who was timing that?
The managers, the male managers, were timing it. Yeah, 8 minutes, and twice a day, and that didn't matter whether you were pregnant, whether you were, a kidney infection, or you had a period. It didn't matter. You just had those 2 toilet breaks, and that was it.
And you had to go up 5 flights of stairs.
And was that included in the timing?
In the 8 minutes.
That
was a sprint.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And if you were longer, a manager would come up to the toilet and knock on the toilet door to see what you were doing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's when I'd let off, you know?
We let off.
Good.
So, I mean, all of that was happening. The conditions were very poor. Your bag was searched going out. There was a lot of intimidation. There was a lot of sexual harassment going on.
And you were like working class women.
Ordinary working class women.
It's interesting, like I grew up in like a council estate, and like a lot of my friends that work within retailer or service industry jobs, they're treated quite badly.
Yeah.
And it is because they're women, and I don't think there's a lot said about it. So it was amazing to see this play, and to meet you is an absolute honour, like genuinely. So you were pissed off with this job. They were treating you like shit.
Yeah.
The managers were wankers.
Yeah.
And tell me about the time where you first got the letter about South Africa.
we got the letter. The strike started on the 19th of July, and literally 2 days before that we got the letter from the union saying that they're asking all of their union members not to handle South African goods because of the apartheid system.
Yeah.
Now, the reason we kind of followed it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for us, because we had tried to go in with meetings with managers and the union. We had like 24 complaints on a list, from jumpers, from our shoes, from the tights, from the coldness that we had to work on, from being stuck on the till all the time, all of that sort of thing. So
your dress code was being
the dress code, totally.
What was your union like about sexual harassment and stuff like that?
Now, to be honest, in the 80s, sexual harassment didn't happen. It was just, sure, that's the way it is, lads.
Sure, that's the way it is, lads. Covers up a lot of shit,
does.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say the union weren't really listening about the wider things?
No, I don't think that's fair to say. Cool. I think it was more the management style of Dunn Stores.
Right.
That they were the bosses. They were the guys in blue suits. They were the young fellas coming in telling some women that have been there for 10, 15 years what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And then younger women like us, and particularly Liz, because she was the baby.
Oh.
Yeah. When we would be leaving the store, they would go through your bags, which wouldn't be unnormal for shop workers. But if you had sanitary towels or Tampax, the manager would pull them out and literally show them around and embarrass you, because back in the day, you had to go to a chemist to get a sanitary towel.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they used to hand it to you in a brown paper
Yeah,
bag.
in a brown paper bag.
Like it was
under the counter.
under the counter.
like it was alcohol or something
Yeah.
like that. Like,
There
Yeah.
you go.
what? So, and these were your bosses, yet they had the maturity of someone who's never seen a tampon before. Like, I had Derek, I don't know why I'm naming him, but I had a fella in school do that to me when he was 15, and we all thought he was a prick. So imagine having that as your boss. Like, that's madness. And so you got the letter, you were sick of everything else, and you thought, feck it, going to go on strike.
No, we didn't think we were going to go on strike.
Oh, good, good.
No.
Good.
We got the letter and
Yeah.
we all agreed that we weren't going to handle South African goods. We didn't know what was South African, so we went around the store looking for it.
Yeah.
And it was just literally, we never thought that they'd actually suspend anybody. We thought we'd do it for a couple of days, they'd forget about it, or it didn't happen, or, whatever.
Yeah.
And it just would be a non-event. But they reacted very strongly against us following this instruction. So they actually forced the situation.
Because I suppose they weren't happy that they weren't controlling you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm raging. So, was it yourself? Was it Mary who you were the person that first refused to handle the goods?
Well, in fairness, Michelle had been brought up the day before, I think, for doing the same thing, but they let her. They just ignored it then. And I just following on from the point, I think, had they just ignored it and let us refuse to handle the goods, because at that stage we didn't know anything really about what was happening in South Africa, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have had the commitment to carry it on. It was
Yeah.
only through the strike that we actually stayed out so long.
What was your knowledge? Like, when you said you didn't know that much, like, what was your
Well,
knowledge?
we didn't even know how to say the word apartheid at the time. Like we were kind
Yeah.
of, and even we probably would have heard of Nelson Mandela, because at the time he was
Yeah.
that song Free Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
would have heard kind of a little bit, but and as well as that, there was always also media. There was no media coming from South Africa. They weren't allowing much to be told from it. So no one really knew what was going on. We didn't know, well, we certainly didn't know much about South Africa at the time. It was literally only from being on the picket line and through talking to Nimrod and people like Nimrod, Maria Schoon, and finding out what actually was happening there, that we got the commitment. And other than that, I always think that the longer the strike went on, it became so important to us as the strikers that it wasn't a policy anymore from the union. That was only like, the policy would have been a piece of paper had we not carried it on.
Yeah. So you escalated it in a way with the.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well, the problem was we were ordinary working class women that got educated.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
was the problem that was facing the trade union movement, the Irish government, and other people around, that we were educated now.
Yeah.
And one part of Tracy's play actually says, when your eyes get open to injustice, you don't just look at what's happening in one country. You look at your own country, you look at all the other. So we were developing. And I think it's really important for people to know none of us were political before this strike.
Yeah.
We weren't involved in any political parties. We weren't, heavily involved in the trade union movement. None of us were. So, it wasn't that, somebody was setting their own agenda.
Yeah.
This was us as a group of workers.
Just saying this isn't on.
This isn't on, And it was because we were treated so badly in Duns that we reacted in the way, and because the management were so controlling, they reacted.
Yeah.
But then, as Mary said, it developed into so much more than that.
And can you talk to me about, Liz, the day that it escalated? What were the bosses like?
Well, for me, I was only part-time.
Right.
So
And you
I
looked
was
at the
coming
bank.
in at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I came in, these were up in the dressing room getting changed. And when I walked in, these were going out on strike.
And you were like, okay.
So I was going, what's happening? And it was Karen had told me, Mary's been suspended.
Yeah.
And like in the play, she said to me, we're going out on strike. If you feel you want to join us, we'll be there tomorrow. And
Was I
went,
that night?
Yeah, you were actually, Karen. I remember it because it was very brief.
oh.
No, I'm joking. I have to say, she's been a great, we would have voted you as top steward. We would have.
Oh,
No, we would have. She
lovely.
was definitely a great encouragement. And the play that Tracy done showed us Karen wherever she is. There you are. Laid up to a T. This is Karen. As we know and love Karen.
Yeah.
This is Karen.
Probably a little bit too
Just
nice, really.
For me, because I wasn't really, I was only in the door, so I didn't know any of these girls.
Yeah.
So very well. I knew them as Miss Gearon, Miss Manning, Miss Monroe, as with the way we were working. So I said to Karen, but I'm not going to stay here and watch you walk out. So I didn't have to change because I wasn't in my uniform. So I said, I'm coming out with you.
Yeah.
So she was surprised. So out we went.
And what was your relationship with like trade unions before? Or
Well, I didn't have much because I'd only literally gone from school to Duns.
yeah,
So, but my family, my father was very unionised. And you growing up, if any picket line that you saw, we never went past it.
that's great.
So it was inbred in me, you never crossed a picket line. So when Karen said she was going out, I thought, I can't go home and tell my father I'm still working. These are all outside. So I said, no, I'm coming with you.
And what's great in the play, it shows that, the nice sunny days where you're out in a picket and everyone was having a lovely time. And then, of course, it's Ireland, so there's going to be a lot of rain. And 2 years and 9 months is such a long, long time. We talk about what it was like to strike for that long. Like, what was it like for yourself, like, to strike that long?
For me, like, you weren't thinking about the far end of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every week we thought, this is going to end soon. This is going to be much longer.
Yeah.
But like, okay, as it progressed, we were starting to think, how is this going to end? So that was becoming a bit scary. Like, what way is it going to end?
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, even watching the play today, and I think the reason I was getting so emotional was because of our unity, because of our togetherness and the bond that we had formed as a group. Really brought it all back. How important these all are.
No, it's great. It's just fantastic to see collective action actually working. And it's great to see working class people to be depicted in such a wonderful way. And it's a true story, and it really is.
And
touching.
I remember on the picket line seeing that poster of "United we stand, divided we fall."
Yeah.
And when I think of how bonded we got, that really seeps through to me. Yeah. If you're together, you can get through anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, when you're in a union and you're fighting for something, I feel like there's like picking off people individually, and like, it's amazing that you stayed that strong, like all 10 of you together. Like, I know that there was a lot of striking, but there was also a lot of kind of media reach out. Karen, you were like maybe a bit front facing, were you, for media? Like, how did that happen?
I suppose it kind of just happened by accident more than anything else. Like myself, Mary and Catherine O'Reilly probably would have been the three kind of main spokespeople for the strike. So we just started doing it, and then we became kind of the names that people recognised, so they'd go. And like, we had no social media. I mean, when Mary was suspended, I had to run across to Roche's stores to make a phone call to ring the union to tell her that somebody was suspended. So, like, when
that's a rival shop for listeners who are unaware of the Duns
that was
Roaches
the posh
divide.
version.
It was the posh
It was
version.
posh, yeah.
I wonder how it was to
Roaches
work
was
there
posh.
now.
Better than Duns, I can tell you. But I mean, so we didn't have a social media. So that's, even looking back now, at the impact that we've had.
Yeah.
Like, we did all of that without any social media.
Yeah.
It was like...
Sorry, and even when we went to South Africa, we had no communication with the outside world.
Oh, this
whatsoever.
is interesting, because for the listeners at home, so you went to South Africa.
We left Heathrow
during apartheid.
Yeah, during apartheid in 1985.
And you weren't welcome there.
No.
We tried to go. We went on a day trip to South Africa.
You went on a day trip.
3 days.
But just on the like social media aspect of it and the communications, when we were in London, We were told by British Airways that we weren't going to be getting into South Africa because we needed a visa to go to South Africa, which you didn't at the time.
And you wanted to go and have a look at the conditions of what you were striking for.
We had checked in and everything, and they had our suitcases, and they'd come over and told us then, no, you're not going to go to South Africa because you don't have visa. So we stuck to our guns again, and we said, no, we're going. Like, we should be allowed to go. But I remember, I think a few of us went and phoned home and said, look, they're not letting us go, so I'll be home tomorrow. We're in London and they're not letting us go out of London. And then they literally came and ran us down onto the plane. And we obviously, no one had mobile phones or anything, so you couldn't contact home and say, well, we're actually going to South Africa now.
Yeah.
So, what they did was as well, they held us for 3 hours. They held the plane for 3 hours, but they didn't know there was journalists who had gone on the plane before we did. And the captain came on and told the people who were waiting on the plane that there's people who are refusing to board. So when we got on, we were all individually put all around the plane. We weren't all sitting together.
And people were probably mad at you.
Oh, yeah.
We held the plane up for 3 hours, they thought. But no one knew. And then the next thing that our parents and friends knew that we were in South Africa being held. So there was no way of them finding out from us that we were okay or...
So from a Monday at 10 o'clock on Monday evening from Heathrow Airport until Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m., people weren't sure where we were, and they weren't sure, what had happened to us. Were we going to be okay?
Yeah.
We were terrified over there. It was really, really scary because when we got off the plane,
if a government are capable of apartheid...
Yeah.
That is scary.
And we heard so many stories of people falling out of the police station.
had only been implemented then when we went over.
Over a few...
they heard people were disappearing left, right and centre.
Oh my gosh.
So when we got put in that room, we were like, is this it? Are we ever going to get on a plane and go home and see our family again?
Yeah. No, that's incredibly
But
scary.
when we arrived back in London, police came on to escort us to a press conference. The world media had gathered in London.
So... because you went for that scary experience, you probably wouldn't have had the attention of the media.
No.
Isn't it weird that you have to go through trauma in order to get yourself...
The South African government kind of shot themselves in the foot by doing that, because had we got in, there might have been some publicity, but not very much. But the fact that it was treated the way we were, it kind of highlighted, and people started to question them, what's happening there that they don't want to see. They did us a favour in a scary way.
That everyone was worried as to where we were and no one had a clue.
Yeah.
Like all our families and the press were all up all night wondering what was going to happen to us or what has happened to us and trying to find out.
And we found out afterwards Alma had stayed at home, and Gareth Fitzgerald, who was the Taoiseach, our Prime Minister at the time, he was doing some walkabout near where Henry Street was, and part of it was corned off, she jumped the barricades to him to see, you get our friends back.
That's amazing.
She did,
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so you that's 2 years and 9 months of going through this together.
Yeah.
Then Dunn's Stores tried to do a bit of a trick.
That was the second time that Dunn's tried to do it.
The second time?
Yeah. The first time the
what
minister...
a shower of sorry.
I can bleep that one out.
Yeah.
But the Minister for Labour at the time was a guy called Rory Quinn, and he got all the major supermarkets together to agree to a voluntary phasing out of South African goods.
Right.
And they did agree in the room, wherever the hell they were, that they were going to do it. But then Dunn's reneged on it. So that time we actually thought the strike was over.
Because you were only getting this at £21 per week.
We were only a year and a bit on strike at this stage.
Cool.
Right,
okay,
so we hadn't got the full... But Dunn's reneged on that, and that just fell down. And then the government, out of pie in the sky, found that prison labour was being used in South Africa. Now, prison labour has always been used in South Africa.
But now they care about it.
But now they care about it. And that was their way of imposing the ban.
Right.
And then Dunn's tried to pull a fast one by importing the goods through a different country.
That's amazing. The ways that people will try and work around not being sound, than rather.
But sure, they've nothing else to do except count their money.
But I think it's working class people standing up for themselves, and they didn't like that. That's my own opinion.
And they weren't the only ones that didn't like that.
Yeah,
there were lots of people, not only in Ireland, didn't like the fact that we were ordinary working class people.
Oh,
that
tell
were
me
making
more.
a huge difference
Yeah.
in it and raising a profile. I mean, the Irish anti-apartheid movement they only had two, we say committees, or two support groups, one in Cork and one in Dublin when we started the strike. When we finished the strike, there was more than 30 Dunn Stores support groups around the country in all the 36 counties. There was, or 32 counties.
I wasn't going to correct you there.
Yeah, thanks. I was like, Jesus, 26, 32 counties. And they all turned into anti-apartheid movement supporters after our strike, you know. So, you know, we were there, we were ordinary, we were working class, we were on the street, and we actually, like, when I see the play now, it's like, we're sitting back and saying, was that really us?
Yeah, you're watching
Did we do
people
that?
play ye.
Yeah. It's very strange.
Is it? Yeah? Do you watch it and go, I didn't say that? Or like, I don't mean it in a...
No.
For me, I think it's like, you know, like we never realised when you're in it.
Yeah.
And then when you're sitting outside looking in, it's like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
We did that. You know?
We did that.
You are in history books.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And like, do you as a tent, do you meet up regularly?
We try to.
Yeah.
Like, we try to meet up.
Yeah.
At least, you know, every year or, you know, something like that. But COVID put a paid to lots of things.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
But no, we do keep in touch.
And it's coming up to 40 years since the... Karen didn't hear that.
I think when you say was, I still am Karen.
I try to ignore that now.
But, you know, it's a big anniversary next year.
Yeah.
And...
That's why we have to get this over here.
But this is it. So is there any plans in Ireland to mark this occasion? It's like Ireland in world history, and it's, I think, like a wonderful thing. Do you know if there's any plans next year to mark this event?
There will be something to mark it. We haven't worked out the details yet. I'm working with Dave Gibney from Mandate on that. I would love this to really get into the schools so that people realise and young people realise that you can make a difference. And like, if you look at what's happening now particularly in the world in the last year and a half, 2 years, the rise of the right is just shocking.
Yes.
Like, it's
frightening.
it's racist, it's transgender, it's women.
It's anti-transgender.
Yeah,
Sorry.
But do you know what I mean? Like, that rise is just really, really shocking. And people need to, like, when you're talking to kids and young people, they think that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the power to do it.
Because we're being told we can't do anything.
Yeah.
And because the media is telling us we can't do anything, and, you know, everybody is, you know, all that. But if young people get to realise that you can actually make a difference, and when you look at us, you know, we made a difference in a time where there was no social media. There was, you know, like, our lives were sort of, you know, you went to school, you left school, you got a job. College didn't come into it. You know, we didn't, that wasn't in our psyche.
Yeah.
You know, because we were ordinary working class people.
Yeah.
But I think if things like our strike, the miners' strike, the women in Dagenham
Debenhams.
and
The Debenhams workers in
406. Have you seen the documentary? It's very good.
We will recommend that for listeners at home. 406.
406. Yeah, it's really, really good documentary, and they've actually shown that documentary around Ireland.
Yeah.
And I think they're coming to Liverpool with it.
Oh, is it Liverpool Irish?
I think it is.
Festival?
I think it is. But like, look at them. Like, I was on the picket line a lot in Debenhams down in Tralee, and there was a sort of the year anniversary of the Debenhams strike. Well, what they did was the UK Debenhams pulled their shops from Ireland, and then they took all of the stock, all of the money from Ireland, and put it into the UK and just closed the shops.
But when there was like, wasn't it kind of a bit forceful as well? Like, there were people protesting, and then there was violence towards the protesters.
Yeah, towards the end.
Which is just very interesting. Like, there's a housing crisis in Ireland at the moment, not to bring everything into it, but I do feel like, as one individual, it feels very scary and hard, because larger companies and people that are into capitalism, they seem to have support of like the guards and stuff, not to be. I'm gonna try and rein myself in a bit and shut up. But I was watching the play and I was filling up of rage because this is in the 80s, and yet so many of the same problems, classism, everything is still happening now. And he did something amazing and changed something, like for the good of the world. But it feels like a lot to be going against. I'd love to get off you a piece of advice. Do you know what, for me, because I feel like shit at the moment about life. Like how did you keep going during the strike, and how do you keep going now as people?
Because of the bond we have with each
the
other.
support.
We kept each other going.
Yeah.
Like if someone was, there was days when people were not feeling good or feeling down or feeling kind of, I suppose, helpless and hopeless, I suppose, during the day. Someone would notice and we'd bring them off, like someone would go for a cup of tea with them, or just to try and kind of boost up the morale a little bit. It was kind of trying to keep the morale up. You didn't want to see someone falling down, like that's what it was. And we all supported each other, and it was true support for each other that we got through it.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm gonna put the microphone out to the audience now and get some questions for you. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry for making it about me at the end. But yeah. Brilliant. Anyone got any questions here? Oh, fantastic.
My name's Annie Power. I just wanted to say what an honour it is to meet some of the original strikers and how brilliant these young actors all have been in this production. Absolutely gobsmacked. I don't want to talk too long because there are lots of other people. I have a million questions. But one of the things I wanted to say, that you are also standing on the shoulders of giants and giant women. And I'm still in a teachers' union. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 73. I'm still active, very active in the union. One of the problems we've had over the years is the diminishing membership of younger members. And certainly in my borough, in Haringey, it's risen, helped by having a fascist government, basically, and people are being pinched and they're learning that. So totally agree with Karen, it's getting the young on board. And you are living proof of this. And this production, this writer and these young people coming up, it just gives me faith. But I wanted to mention a woman called Louise Raw, who we invited to our union. Now, I'd never heard of her. I knew almost nothing about the Match Girls strike in this country because our history of working class women is hidden. So Louise Raw is a writer, working class woman writer, and what she did was she looked into the Match Girls strike, Bryant and May, and Annie Besant, who is a socialist middle class activist and a great woman, got the credit for the strike, and that's how history was written up. But what I never knew was the first striker and the women who rose up were working class women. And in the East End of London, there was a very strong community of Irish women, and they were involved. 2 or 3, I believe, Irish women from very, very activist, strong-minded Irish people were involved. Totally written out of history. So I just recommend that book to anyone who hasn't read it. Of course, the critic said, it's not very well written, but she researched it for years. You can look her up, Louise Raw, R-A-W. So I just wanted to say that was 1888 in East End of London. And, what you did later is carrying on that wonderful torch. Thank you.
Will I let it go to another question, or would you? Yeah, that was amazing, Annie. Thank you so much. Yeah.
This is just an amazing coincidence. I don't know this lady, but I actually and my colleague here represent the Match Girls Memorial. We do. Yes.
For the listeners at home, they're sitting beside each other.
I wanted to ask you if any of your Irish heritage might have been involved in the 1888 strike down in Bow.
I don't know.
But if you've got a couple of hours to spare, I can give you quite a talk, and we could do quite a talk on the Match Girls.
I've got an actual question.
Well,
We have an actual question
I should
here.
probably say Frank
I'm
McGuinness
not-
wrote a play about the Match Girls.
Oh,
Frank
yeah?
McGuinness, yeah. So there's a play by Frank McGuinness, Irish writer, about the Match Girls.
Yeah,
Frank
Frank-
McGuinness.
Frank McGuinness.
Frank McGuinness. So, yeah, fantastic play, yeah.
I know the first play was written in about 1940 by Robert Mitchell on the Match Girls, and there have been musicals ever since. And there's lots of new stuff coming along at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, look, you're swapping cards. I love it. So the question.
My actual question, which is kind of coming on from the Match Girls and their experience, because part of why they won was they virtually invented strike pay. So they gathered money in off various supporters and kept a book. So they were divvying out as close as possible to what the girls regularly earn. And I just wondered how, once your strike pay ran out, what you did to get by.
That is a great question.
The strike pay didn't run out. It continued for the 2 years, 9 months. So it didn't actually run out. No.
If you hadn't
That's a
lifted
good
the picket,
union.
it
If
would
we
have
hadn't
stopped.
lifted the picket,
It would have been.
It would have been.
Yeah.
But we would have got, when the miners came over to do a collection in Dublin, they actually would have given us a few bob to keep going and stuff like that. So there was a lot of that sort of support.
Solidarity.
Yeah, it was people made
Yeah.
collections for us and stuff.
Yeah. But had we not lifted the picket off Dunstores in Henry Street and went to the Dáil, which is our Parliament buildings, we would have lost the strike pay. Yeah.
Wow. Let's get another question in.
Great performances, great production. Privileged to be here, and well done, everyone.
Yeah,
My question is about the relationship between yourselves and Nimrod. How did you first meet Nimrod? How did the very trusting relationship that was clearly apparent from the play develop?
He came down to the picket line, I think, introduced originally by Labour Youth.
Yeah.
He came down and they had contact with him when he was in Harold's Cross in the hostel.
We get
And-
a bit of background of who Nimrod is before. Is that all right? Like, just for the listeners at home.
Yeah,
They
he
wouldn't
was
have heard
an
of Nimrod.
ANC. He was exiled in Ireland for 20. Well, not in Ireland. He was exiled for the past 21 years, I think it was. He had been in Russia and in different, as I said in the play. He had been in Ireland, I think, only a year, I think, or less than that. Even
He's, I think, 4 years at that point.
Was he at that
4
stage?
years,
Yeah. How the reason why he came so close to him, I suppose, was that he taught us so much. Like, he wasn't someone who came down to the picket line and said, kind of preached at us, and he day by day he just spoke to us about what was happening in South Africa, and it became kind of like we were so interested to hear what he was saying, and it became like a personal thing for us. So it was through him just kind of educating us, I suppose. That was one of the big reasons why we all became so close to him.
And we didn't learn a lot about Nimrod at the beginning. He was very, very private. We didn't learn about his family. We didn't know for a long time that he'd been in prison with Nelson Mandela. He never told us that for a long time.
Wow, that's something to keep back, isn't it? I'd be. If I was in prison in Nelson Mandela, I'd be opening up. Hello, I was in prison in Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, that's what would be your way in, wouldn't it?
I'm a Gemini.
That was the type of man Nimrod was.
Yeah.
He and like Labour Youth, which was predominantly the militant tendency within the Labour Party at the time, now Socialist Party in Ireland. So he would have been part of that organisation, Socialist. And because of his commitment of what he was doing, the trust was there, and he was a really, really, really good man.
Yeah.
I think for me, and I know for a lot of us, the hardest thing was when we met his family over in South Africa when we were at Mandela's funeral. And we never realised what they gave up for him, and what he gave up for the cause. Because one of his daughters, Daphne, she's always in my head, she was really, really upset and angry that he had left them in this place. And when you see somebody like Nimrod, and such an amazing person, and gave up his whole life for the struggle, you don't see what was
family
left
suffered.
behind and what was given up for that struggle.
No, but the play is amazing. The play is fantastic. Ye are amazing.
But can I just say, a
course.
huge,
Yes.
huge thank you to Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Tracy heard this story in 2009, and was the first ever person to take on the story.
I can't believe that it was 2009 and someone thought this is an interesting story. Like Tracy, I'm going to finish up, but I realised that I've been chatting away, and I want to hear you for a second. Like, how did you first hear about this story?
Well, I actually heard Mary on the radio. You'd been kind of hoodwinked to go on the radio, and Ben Dunn was trying to apologise to me. It was on Liveline, Joe Duffy's Liveline.
Oh, if
very famous radio show.
No. Yeah. Never.
Really?
Yeah.
Because for listeners at home that are not from Ireland, the Late Late Show and Liveline are both programmes that kind of like, they're almost like a time capsule. You could see social change happen. It's very long running shows. And it was very interesting to hear that you weren't asked on the Late Late as the Dunn Stores workers. Like, you were on the Late Late, but not under that umbrella. Like, how did you get on the Late Late?
Well, myself and Luca Bloom, who is Christy Moore's brother, who is an artist in his own right, we were invited on to be in the audience because they were talking about artists not going into South Africa. You know, there was a UN it was a cultural boycott of South Africa, and an Irish band. I don't even want to, we don't have to name. Thank God, because I can't stomach them. But anyway, Foster and Allen, who broke cultural Foster and Allen. Yeah.
Wait. Foster and Allen
broke
the people who dressed up as leprechauns on top of the pops.
Yeah.
I can't believe they broke a cultural boycott.
They absolutely did. So
They're
there
local
you go.
to me as well.
Well, there you go. But anyway, there was a discussion on that, and myself and Luca Bloom were in the audience as part of that discussion, and we were, saying about the boycott and all that. But interestingly enough, the Dunn Store Strikers are on the backing single with Bono and U2, Ain't Gonna Play Sun City.
Oh, nice. So you got to meet Bono.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
What's he like?
Lovely.
So, Tracy, I've just seen the play today. How long is this play running until?
So it's going to run till the 6th of May.
6th of May.
The alternative coronation is to come here on the 6th of May.
Oh, that would be amazing. Seriously, if you're not interested in the royals and you're interested in working class people making a change, come on the 6th of May. Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll run till 6th of May. But like I say, Arden already making connections in Ireland, because we'd love to bring it to Ireland for the 40th anniversary.
I think it should happen.
It has to come to Ireland.
Yeah.
We have to make that work.
Fantastic. I'm going to go for each one of you, and if you have anything to say that you feel that you haven't said yet, now's your time. So Tracy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just that I cry at the end of every time I see the play.
I heard you cry.
Yeah, and because it's just so inspiring what you did together, all together. And it just shows you when there's a group of people, you can't be broken. Like Nimrod says, the hands together cannot be broken.
Yeah. And the actors are amazing. Like,
honestly,
the staging is incredible.
Yeah, and Alison, I must thank Arden, because I couldn't get it on again in Ireland. We did it in 2010. We just couldn't get the funding because it was such a big cast. But Arden took it on in 2015, and they have worked solidly to raise the money to get it on. And
I
with
think we should raise
well.
the funds to get it in Ireland next year, because it would be disgusting if it isn't seen that year. Yeah. Mary, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just again, I think the actors in the play were fantastic. Like, it brought such emotion to us. I think looking at the play, and so you did a good job.
Yeah. Karen,
I want to thank Tracy for taking this journey with us. I think Ardent, Mark, and Andrew, you're just incredible people, and you're really, really, really lovely to work with. And I'm not just saying that, you really are. You make things very easy for us. The actors, you were just incredible. But none of this would happen if it wasn't for the group of strikers and the friendship that we have. So I want to thank the strikers for our friendship.
It's so lovely. Liz, my love, is there anything you'd like to say?
Crying?
I know, you're making me cry. I don't even know you. I'm like,
I have to say, all of the actors were amazing.
Yeah.
And it really depicted every one of us You know, when I was listening to Mary or Karen or Vonnie or whoever, I relate, or me particularly, you were brilliant. You were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It was exactly. Because I kept turning, well, that's exactly what you would have said. That's exactly what you... And you would have said it exactly that way.
Yeah.
You know, to all of them.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was just great for us to relive it and to see it, to sit back and watch us. Do you know what I mean? Because we didn't know exactly what it was like until you sit back and you see it and you think, wow.
It's a story of like
You're
love.
an amazing bunch of people.
Yeah.
No, but it is. I have to say, it really brought out a lot of emotion.
Yeah. No.
And I don't think I'll watch it again because I'll be just an emotional wreck by the time I go home.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like it's
Can they say, like, if anybody's listening to this and they feel they don't have a way of changing things, you do. Because it literally just started with us small little group in Ireland, and it developed into so things can change.
And people were telling you that you couldn't change everything.
Yeah. And we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. No. That was brilliant. Okay. Tracy Ryan, Mary Manning, Karen Gearon, and Liz Deasy, everybody. Thank you. Amazing.